appointment to the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. Congratulations, and tell us what the Commission hopes to accomplish.
Well, thank you very much for it, Lou. Well, we just now set it up, so we're just now getting started about our agenda. I know what I hope to accomplish. I hope to raise the issue that the #1 issue facing Black America is not systemic racism, although that's what people are in the streets fighting about right now. The #1 issue facing Black America is a large number of Black kids who are raised without fathers. I've quoted to you before Obama, who said a kid raised without a dad is 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. Now, the question is, why are 70% of Black kids today raised without fathers? I argue that there's a connection between that and the welfare state. I believe that our welfare state has incentivized women to marry the government and is incentivizing men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And it's about time we have a conversation about that, and this administration is determined to do just that.
Good. Well, good for you, good for the president, and we wish you great success with the commission and achieving great things. Let me turn to now the NBA. Ratings down, Game 2, 68%. I mean, there's a message, and it's a lot louder than any message Black Lives Matter or the NBA hoped they would be sending to their audiences, who they take for granted. 68%. People have had a bellyful of the Black Lives narrative and the Marxist violence that they bring to our streets, and the NBA that is the most sanctimonious, ridiculous set of hypocrites I've ever seen, talking about their messaging to an audience that wants to watch basketball. They're turning their backs. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it is having an effect. I saw a poll that shows a lot of Americans have decided they're not going to watch basketball because of all these messages. You got Black Lives Matter printed on the courtroom floor. You have all sorts of social justice messages on the uniforms. You know, I just mentioned earlier the #1 problem facing Black America is not systemic racism, although these players are convinced that it is. If the NBA really wants to do something, I would urge them to reread the cover story of a magazine called Sports Illustrated, which back in 1998 had a cover story, Lou, of a Black kid holding a basketball, and the cover story said, "Where's my daddy?" And it was about the epidemic of players who had kids outside of wedlock. One player, former player, now an agent, was quoted in the magazine as saying, for every player with no kid outside of wedlock, there was one with 2 or 3. Now, if they really want to do something, why don't you talk about the #1 problem facing the Black community, and that's the absence of fathers, and do something about that. You were talking about LeBron James a moment ago. Here's a man who married the mother of his children. He has been a terrific role model about the importance of a nuclear intact family. Why does he use that influence and his tens of thousands of followers on social media instead of pushing a phony narrative that the police are killing Black people because they're Black? Do something about the #1 problem facing Black America. As a role model, he's done that. Advance that.
The only mistake I made was I said tens of thousands of followers. This man has tens of millions of followers. So I received this letter from Dr. John. Dear Mr. Elder, saw your interview today with Lou Dobbs. I wanted to share some information about this. In the summer of 1969, I was a first-year obstetrical gynecological resident at a hospital in New Orleans. I don't know if you're familiar with Charity Hospital. Unfortunately, it was closed by Hurricane Katrina. Up until then, it was nicknamed Big Mother because most Black people in New Orleans were born there. As a first-year OB/GYN resident, I delivered 150 babies in 3 months. Only one of the mothers was married. Most of these girls were 11 years old. Most people do not believe me when I tell them that, and unfortunately, I do not have written statistics to prove it. Obviously, there was no way 11-year-olds could serve as parents to these babies. Grandparents tried to do the best they could, but they were often too busy to provide for the extended family. These girls quickly learned and or taught each other that having babies brought checks from the Aid to Dependent Children program in the state of Louisiana. They learned that if they needed more money, they simply had to bear another child. The problem with the ADC program was that these young mothers were denied the check if the father of the child lived with them. This never made any sense to me. Still, that was the rule. A public health physician at Tulane Medical School recognized the problem and tried to do something about it. Dr. Joseph Beasley worked out an arrangement with the heads of OB/GYN departments at Tulane and LSU medical schools to set up a free clinic. We residents manned the clinic. We did free examinations, free sexual counseling. Many of these mothers did not know where these babies came from, prescribed birth control pills, inserted IUDs, etc. The program proved to be a huge success. Unfortunately, a group of black ministers shut us down after 6 weeks, claiming that we were committing genocide. I do not know if you find this information useful, but I thought it addressed an aspect of what you were talking about. If you would like to discuss these matters in greater detail, please feel free to contact me. He left his contact information. In 2006, Heather McDonald, a frequent guest on the Larry Elder Show with the Manhattan Institute, wrote a piece for the Institute called Hispanic Family Values. He wrote this in 2006. This is just some of the excerpts. Hispanic women have the highest unmarried birth rate in the country, over 3 times that of whites and Asians, and nearly 1.5 times that of black women, according to the Center for Disease Control. Every 1,000 unmarried Hispanic women bore 92 children in 2003, the last year for which data exists, compared with 28 children for every 1,000 unmarried white women, 22 for every 1,000 unmarried Asian women, 66 for every 1,000 unmarried black women. Again, 92 for every 1,000 unmarried Hispanic women. 45% of all Hispanic births occur outside of marriage, compared with 24% of white births and 15% of Asian births. Only the percentage of black out of wedlock, almost 70%, exceeds the Hispanic rate. But the black population is not going to triple over the next few decades, end of quote. She also wrote this, and I'm quoting, Hispanic immigrants bring near third world levels of fertility to America, coupled with what were once thought to be first world levels of illegitimacy. In fact, family breakdown is higher in many Hispanic countries than here. Nearly half of the children born to Hispanic mothers in the U.S. are born outside of wedlock, a proportion that has been increasing with no signs of slowing down. Quote, Dr. Anna Sanchez delivers babies at St. Joseph's Hospital in the city of Orange, California, many of them to Hispanic teenagers. To her dismay, they view having a child at their age as normal. A recent patient just had her second baby at 17. The father's baby is in jail. But most alarming, Sanchez says, is that the teen's parents' view of having babies outside of marriage as normal too. A lot of grandmothers are single as well. They never married or they had successive partners. So mom sends a message to her daughter that it's okay to have children outside of wedlock, end of quote. More on this when we come back. Dr. Scott Atlas said even the UK and other countries are recognizing that the lockdowns must end. I'm Larry Elder.